Hey guys, Gene here, and here are for you today another episode in the Deck Showcase series for the Eternal Awakening expansion. Here are for you today Swordcraft. Basically just the Evolved Swordcraft, because that's basically the only deck that I would see as viable in this expansion for rotation. There is another build of Swordcraft that revolves around Wilfred, but I would see that as a little bit too inconsistent because Wilfred, again, you have to draw Wilfred, and if you don't, your deck is just followers, and that's pretty much all your whole deck is. But this deck is very strong, has a lot of explosive turns, but the main thing that deters people away is, again, I said, it's inconsistent. Not inconsistent, it's very expensive. Because you can see, we have like over 20 legendaries, easily over 20 legendaries. That equates to about 70 to 80,000 of crafting materials. The whole deck revolves around the new Sky Brigade cards, Selphon, Eata, and On Wings of Tomorrow. Basically, you just want to evolve a bunch while these cards are in your hand and get down their Skybound arts. Skybound Art is a new mechanic that has been introduced in the set. It is basically like Union Burst from the old expansion, from previous expansions, but Skybound Art is basically the same thing. Basically, it has a counter there, so Skybound Art 10, so on your 10th turn, you could activate that effect. Super Skybound Art is the same thing, but it's a bigger cost, is in turn 15. But while this card's in your hand, if you evolve, those numbers go down by 1. So basically you want to evolve a bunch while these guys are in your hand and go to the races from that. But the thing that I'd say about this is that, again, it's this deck is a little high rolly because, again, you need to have these cards in your hand, and the earlier you have them and the earlier you get a good evolution package going, the more you can high roll into these things. But the only thing you can't high roll is your Eata. So what they do is, Eata is just an 8/7/6 with Rush, but for Skybound Art 10, you can subtract 5 from the cost of all Swordcraft followers in your hand. So what does that mean? That means literally everything but Eata will become 0 cost in your hand as long as it's a Swordcraft follower. What's broken about it is with Lux Blade Ariete, you make it 0 cost, and if you evolve at least 3 times, you basically net 3 play points. And if you evolve 5, you restore 5, and if you have played 7 evolved, then you draw until you have 6 to 7 cards in your hand, which is very good. These 2 cards go hand in hand. So then you play Eata, lower the cost of all the cards by 5, then dump your whole hand, and then your end payoff is Selphon. Selphon for Super Skybound Art. You evolve all unevolved Swordcraft followers on your board. So basically your whole board just evolves and then it triggers more Skybound Arts in your hands, and basically it is the main way you're going to get to a high Skybound Art at a lower turn count. But they also have their Super Skybound Art, which is for Selphon. It makes them into basically Heavenly Aegis. Reduce all damage to it to 0 and can be destroyed by effects. But it still can be banished and bounced, stuff like that. Eata, if its Super Skybound Art is activated, he subtracts 5 from the cost of all 4 Swordcraft followers in your deck on top of in your hand, because if you trigger the Skybound Art 15, you're still triggering the first Skybound Art. So it's very broken. And also, Eata has a nice win con because during your turn when it attacks and destroys a follower but it survives, you evolve it, and its evolved is to get attacked twice. So if you evolve it with like Selphon and he survives the next turn, that's 18 damage straight to your opponent's face. Some other cards we're playing in this deck, again, free evolves, Alyaska free evolve, not free evolve, Kagamitsu free evolve, and it's basically a staple at this point. Ramiel is actually a good one because it actually ramps us if we go second. And it's just a solid card all around. This card is just pretty much very solid in this format. Some other cards, Archangel, very good generic card to play. Honorable Thief, great card, evolves itself pretty early on. Arthur is amazing, mainly because there are a lot of OTKs going around in this expansion. So the ability to just give your leader protection from one damage from one of the attacks is great. He puts in a lot of work. And on the same note, we're playing Fluffy Angel, mainly because, again, you don't want to die very easily to like Shadow or Force, so you just play this. It's a ward, heals you for 2, blocks an attack, all good. And lastly, we are playing Tushia Phalanxes, again, just more dudes. Jelt, a good card combined with Amelia. And lastly, the last card we could talk about is On Wings of Tomorrow. This card is bonkers. Really play one because you only need one. Basically, it's a choose card. It's neutral. Use play points equals this card's cost and play either Grand's Resolve or Jita's Determination. Grand's Resolve is a deal 5 to 2 random enemy followers, and then you put 2 random followers from your deck to your hand. The effect of this card is that you can use it early to do some random removal and draw your cards is nuts. And Jita's Determination is deal 10 to a random enemy follower, so you can, instead of doing 2, you do it to 1, but in turn you get an evolution and to recover and to play points back, which is nuts. But what we really want for is the Super Skybound art, where you get to summon a Gran and Jita Eternal Heroes instead. Which that card is a 5-mana 5/5, basically the cover card of the set. Has Storm, Strike. The next time the follower takes damage, reduces damage to 0, which that part's fine, we don't care. But it has Rally 20, where it has the ability to attack twice per turn. But if you can somehow get to Rally 40, it evolves a follower, and instead of being a 5/5, it becomes a 10/10. So if you could somehow get to Rally 40, you could literally one-shot your opponent with this card, which is bonkers. And that's pretty much it for the deck showcase. Yep, Evo Shaman, not Evo Shaman, I got Hearthstone in the brain. Evo Swordcraft is the way to go if you want to play Swordcraft for this expansion. Again, if you don't have the crafting materials for this deck, I recommend staying away from it because all these cards are pretty much necessary in order to play this deck on ladder, in the GPs, and all that stuff. If you have all these cards from previous expansions, the only cards you really need is 3 Seraphon, 3 Yada, and 1 On Wings of Tomorrow. Archangel is a cool card, but you don't really need it. Arthur is pretty much necessary, but it's uncommon, so it's not much. Yep, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys are enjoying this deck series, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and Gene out.